In my previous video, I talked about what is the value of a knife. A knife, I talked about all the things, the cost of materials, the cost of labor, overhead, taxes, breakage, profit. Now, I also want to talk about like how much can you charge profit? Because profit, obviously, it's you need a high enough profit margin in order to make your business functioning. If you're not making enough money and you're barely breaking even, you're one mistake from bankrupting, which is also kind of a fact about most people. You are one bad medical bill away from being homeless, or maybe two or three. You're not a billionaire. You never will be. Anyways, what is the value of a knife? What is someone willing to pay? And that's kind of where the profit sits. And again, profit is not greed. We all have bills to pay. You need profit in order to have a sustainable living, in order to pay for the electricity that runs my lights and my computer, in order to pay for my groceries and my fridge. It's just how, unfortunately, things work. And so, profit, how much can you pay? And so, let's say, in this case, the Zyzix, he has to account for the materials. He has to account for Julian's labor in order to make these knives, because Julian is the one who machines a lot of people's knives. And so the Zyzix has to cover the the physical costs of materials, including the wood box and all the random trinkets in there, and the labor. And then he himself, Paul Jenkins, has to surface grind the blades and tune the bushings and assemble it himself. And he has to pay for his own labor and all that jazz. Now, how much is someone willing to pay for this? And he sets this to $1,000 or so. And good for him, people are buying this. This is one of my favorite fucking knives. Is it worth $1,000? And the answer is, if people are paying for it, then yes. Because if he were to price this, let's say he priced this at like 700. Let's say he did 700. I don't know if 700 is enough for him to like make enough profit. It might honestly even be a loss. But let's say theoretically $700 is enough to break even, and maybe just a hair more. Of course, people are willing to pay this for $1,000. People are willing to pay $700. It also comes in this gorgeous handmade wooden box and all this other things, like these like nice little cloths, polishing cloths. And let's say he wanted to price this at 1,200. Let's say he wanted to price this at 1,300. Now, are people willing to pay 1,300 for this? And the answer is maybe, but fewer than people who would be willing to pay $1,000. And so you want to be able to find the sweet spot of how much money can you make and how much money are people willing to pay. Because sometimes, especially in a niche hobby like this, sometimes you just need to pay high enough because, you need to charge high enough because you have to be able to bank on what people are willing to pay. Like $1,000 is prohibitively expensive. I did not pay $1,000 for this. I bought this secondhand, which I will get to. But, there's kind of like three pricing pools, especially also with like, let's look at food. Because I think food is easy to see. You have McDonald's, which is, fast food, and especially in the old days was like kind of really gross. And that's like the cheapest beef you could possibly get. This is equivalent to, I guess, clone companies who are doing the cheapest labor, and they're trying to be as low a price as possible because they're competing with other people who are pricing as low as possible. And so in order to get buyers, you have to be as cheap as possible because the people that are buying from those are just trying to get the cheapest thing possible. So then you have like middle price point. Let's say you are a regular family owned restaurant. Maybe you're even like an individual who owns a restaurant, and you're doing all right. It's a mid price point, and you're able to make money. I would say most individual knife makers are probably in this point. And then let's say you are a super duper fancy restaurant. Maybe you have Michelin star. You're probably pricing absurdly high because you're providing a dish that's so delicious that people are willing to pay for it. The dining experience, the food, all that stuff. And that's like grails, $1,000 plus dollars. You have to be able to see if this is something that you value. And so what a knife is valued at, especially in the secondhand market, is whatever people are willing to pay for it. So most of the time, if you have a knife that is owned secondhand, the value will go down from the MSRP because why would I buy a knife secondhand from someone if I could just pay the exact same amount to buy it from straight from the factory where I know it's going to be like good and tuned and all that thing and not have any fucking weirdness? Because, duh. Now, there are some circumstances. I have sold a Phobos actually for retail price because Phobos's, like several other makers, I know A51 does this, I think JK does this, and ROTP does this. They have to do lotteries. Because if they did first come first serve, it would just be insanely difficult to get one. And so like some people do drops, they do batches, but if they're releasing one knife at a time, a lottery makes sense. And so if you really want something, you might not necessarily win the lottery. And I said, hey, if you want a Phobos and you don't want to deal with the lottery, this is mint condition, and someone bought it, and so that was cool. Now also things that are not being made anymore. For example, the Marin. The Marin is not being made anymore. However, there's still a demand for it. And so sometimes people are pricing higher than MSRP. I'm actually not 100% sure what the MSRP is for this, but I'm going to guess somewhere similar to a Seraph. Also, if something is custom. This is a Carlo. I have another Carlo that I'm selling. But this Carlo, there's only two of. And technically, there's only one of because these handles mismatch. But to me as a collector, this was valuable enough, even though it is a slightly worse flipper, because it's rare and there's only like really 1/2 of them. The regular Carlo is something that I think more people should try because it's actually really good. And again, I think the standard Carlo, which is over here that I'm trying to sell, buy it from me please, is a better flipping experience. And so if you only care about flipping experience, it is a higher value than this. But for most people, I think the value is they'll put it higher. And so value, like also, let's talk about my day job as I write music for video games. What is the value of music? And that is so fucking arbitrary because I don't have machining costs. I obviously have my own labor. I don't just pump music out like instantly, but I don't have physical materials that I need to like cover. And I have my own tools. I have like my library samples and my various instruments and whatever. And I guess you could say that, but a lot of it is digital. So what is the value? And the value is whatever the fuck I say and whatever the fuck they're willing to pay. And so typically what I do is that I have a client, they're interested in working with me, I'm interested in working with them, and they say, how much? And then I go, big number. And again, I'm doing, like, this is like months of labor, sometimes years of labor. So I'm doing big number, and I'm doing a number higher than they want to pay, because then they go, that's a little higher than we can afford. Can we go lower? And I get theoretically more money than I would have said if I did a different number. Like if I said that number, they might have been like, how about we go lower? So I started the higher number to get to the second number. Or maybe I'd be like, oh, let's do this number, and then go to a lower number and go, okay, but, and then I get some sort of negotiating back. Maybe I get some profit share from the game doing well. Like if the game goes big gangbusters, if I work on the next fucking Undertale, then like, cool. But it's just some value that is being offset. Now, also, let's look at the knives again. So, like the Zyzix, if you were to sell this for $1,000, you might not necessarily be able to find a buyer because I think Paul Jenkins is currently selling some. Now, a lot of people will just lower the price flat. But what is the price even? And so I'm going to use these two knives as examples. So the 87 as a Benchmade knife. I don't think Benchmade is making 87s anymore. But the 87 is, there's a value inherent in that it is, one, Benchmade, which some people find collectors. Two, it's actually pretty fun flipping. I actually really enjoy flipping this, and I'm going to eventually make a review. Three, it is legitimately just a very good EDC knife that if you want to use it as a knife, there's good value in this. But what does it cost? And so Benchmade has a price. And so I want to say it was like $600. The person who sold this to me, they actually had a receipt, and it was like $600. And so they valued it at $600 because it's in mint condition. A lot of people have been selling theirs at $300 because maybe they need the money and they can't get it to move. And so then they set it at $300 in hopes that someone will buy it. Now, at first, I started to regret offering the Opus for this 87 because $300 is less money than an Opus. And if I were to sell the Opus, and I could make a profit, blah, 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 blah. However, most people's 87 have tap, and mine does not. And so I'm actually, to me, the value of a Benchmade knife with no fucking tap. I said, you know what? Okay, maybe is it actually worth it? I'm actually okay with the trade. I might have overtraded, but at the same time, the fucking Benchmade knife with no tap, that's so crazy. So if I were to ever sell this, which I'm not sure that I would, but if I were to ever sell this, I might honestly just keep it at the same price point and say, hey, if you are like me and you fucking hate tap and it drives your brain crazy, that might actually be the value. And so someone might be like, okay, well, why would I go to yours for 600 when someone else is 300? And I go, mine has 0 tap, no play. I guess most don't have play, but I have 0 tap. And so if someone else is interested in buying that, is that difference in price of, is the no tap worth the gap in cost? For a lot of people, it's no, but for some people, it might be yes. The value is whatever the fuck you say it is, and whatever the fuck someone's willing to pay for it. If someone was trying to sell something for much higher and no one's willing to pay for it, it's not gonna fucking move. Of course it's not, That's just how it is. And if you're trying to, if you're a maker and you're selling something at a cost that's so low that you're barely making enough profit margin, but enough people are trying to buy it with you, for you, it might be hard to keep a business. So at least on the secondhand market, it's a lot more arbitrary. Now, I've known that people have given me flack for this, and I want to address some of these things because I think some of it's kind of bullshit, but I'm going to go into it. Some people have given me flack because they don't like how I operate on the secondhand market. One, I'd like to think that I am a pretty chill and nice person, especially if you get to know me. But let's be real, a lot of people have kind of surface level relationships, especially if you are just buying and selling. If I go out to someone and I talk to someone because they are selling a knife, I don't really know this person, and they don't really know me. That's understandable. So if they have a knife, I am very used to negotiating. It is literally part of my job, but it's also just part of my culture, and I hate saying like, oh, my culture. I feel like a fucking caricature TV show, like, oh, my people, my culture, blah. If you do this arbitrary action, like, like then I'll get offended or whatever. Like, when you give a business card to a Japanese businessman, you're supposed to use 2 hands and give it to them like that. And if they're in America and you give them a business card like this, like they might be understanding because they're in international travels that's not expected. But I feel like it's just kind of like, oh, in my culture. However, Chinese people negotiate like crazy. I learned it from my mom, and I remember seeing her negotiate a flea market. Here's this item, $20, and she goes, how about $10? And they go, how about 15? And then she says yes, or maybe she goes for 12 or whatever. I went to PAX East, and there's people selling used games, and there's a game called Boxing. It's literally just called Boxing, but I played it at a friend's house and I really enjoyed it. And I say, oh, I know this game. This game's really sick. And they go, oh yeah, nice. Not a lot of people know about it. And it was priced at like $10. And I go, how many people do you think are going to pay $10 for a game literally just called Boxing? The guy's like, maybe not too many. And I go, now, how much more worth it is it to sell this to me for $5 for that $5 difference? And yeah, it's half the price. It's a used video game. It's a PlayStation 1 video game that no one's really heard of. And if you have, cool, let me know. But he goes like, and I'm like, is it worth, hauling to and from to various events and taking up truck space and wall shelf space, or would you rather just part with it for $5 instead of trying to get 10? And he goes, okay, yeah, I could do that. And so the value is what he said at 10, and then what I negotiated to 5. And so let's take this recent example where I was trying to, so Major Rallis is someone that I have purchased knives from a couple of times. I am also a very heavy negotiator, and so if he does sell a knife to me, he's making less money than he would selling to someone else, if he could sell it to someone else. And so we're going to get to this example, which is the Heed Sea Knight. The Heed Sea Knight is a Balisong that, frankly speaking, has no demand. There's no one actively trying to find the Heed Sea Knight except for maybe me, and I'm not even sure that I want one. I want a temp trade for one. And so I see this Heed Sea Knight, and at first it was being priced at like 300 something, and I go, I don't know if I want to buy this knife for like 300 bucks, three whatever, because I don't know if I'll like it. And if I do buy it, I don't think I can sell it if I don't like it because there's no fucking demand for it. And so then later it was priced at like 240, and I said, hey, are you able to go to 180? And I was hoping that he would push me back to 200. And I would go, I think I could maybe go for this knife for 200, maybe. And I still don't even know if I want it. I put it at 180. I said 180 because I don't want it that badly. If I did, I would meet him where he's at because it's a good deal. But like I don't want it that badly. And so I throw out a number. I throw out honestly kind of a low ball, and he got really upset at me and he blocked me, and I was like, "Oh no, dude, I'm not trying to offend you. This is just how Chinese people do business." And I've negotiated with other like Asian people before, and I think negotiation is pretty understandable. And if someone lowballs and they go, "Okay, I can't do that, but like the lowest I can go is this," or like, "Sorry, that's a lot lower than I'm willing to go. Can you meet me higher?" and whatever. And if I go yes or I go no, like maybe if I walk, we go, okay, understandable. Have good luck with sale. Have a nice day. He got really mad that I didn't even go to 200. And I was just like, whoa, buddy. Unfortunately, he blocked me before I was really able to explain. Now, the economy is all fucked up. Everything's expensive. And, this is a hobby. Dangerous fidget spinners are not a necessity to life. It is not electricity or heat or food. It is a cool toy. And some people it's a tool, but mostly it's a toy. A cool toy. And so, being able to save money in negotiation, some people are just insulted by negotiation at a base level. Like if they have a price and then you counter offer a different price, some people just get mad off the get-go and they get insulted. And unfortunately, like, while that might be the case, it's also just how business works. My business involves negotiating. You might not necessarily negotiate machine-wise. They don't need to because people are paying what they want. But even if someone else is selling a knife at, the retailer, the maker of the knife, and you might be able to negotiate it, but most people wouldn't try. Those makers will probably just do a sale. If they need to move product. Instead of like being like, yes, I will negotiate with you, they'll probably just go, oh, here's a flash sale, buy now for $15 off or whatever. But in the secondhand market, it's all arbitrary. A knife could be worth 600 or it could be worth 300, depending on whatever. And not everything has such a wide gap, but like at least in the 87 it was. And so for the Marin, someone was selling it for 400, and I said, yeah, I'll go for that, because even if I don't like it, which is a low case, it's machine-wise after all, I think I could sell it, and it's great. And I don't actually plan on keeping it, because I do want to sell it. And so someone selling it for 400, whatever reason he sold it for 400, that's up to him. Not everyone has consistent reasons for selling. Some people sell because they need to pay a bill, like their car got fucked up, or they are just trying to like, oh, I don't have enough space in my case. And this one is the one that's going to go. Some people are just leaving the hobby altogether, and whatever people are selling for, it's a different reason. And so if they're selling it for a number, I'm not exploiting them. I'm just meeting them at their price. But if I sell it, like, I think the Marin is worth 600 more. And I'm not the only person. I've seen other Marins priced around there. It's pretty reasonable, I would argue. And so if I sold it for a profit, some people are just inherently opposed to the idea of selling it for a profit. But I want to make clear that, one, I'm not exploiting the guy I bought it from. He set the price first. And two, I actually do plan on getting this refurbished. I remember, I was like, oh, I was supposed to do something. I guess that wasn't really two. But, like, I think that if I were to try and sell it, I have no necessary reason to try and be at the price that I paid for, just to lose money, just because of some arbitrary idea that what I'm doing is wrong. The value of this item is arguably more than what one person sold it at. Someone sold a fucking orca for $700. Does that mean every orca has to be sold at $700? No, that's insane. That's crazy. The orca is worth like 1,000-ish, and whoever bought that orca, if they want to sell it, they don't have to sell it at 700 just because they paid that much. We don't have to lose money just because someone random on the internet would get mad. I think that's stupid. If that person bought it and then they managed to sell it for what is more in line with the actual value of it, buying something that is a statistical outlier, like you can have a statistical outlier both high or low, like Marin being priced at 400. Maybe that's a statistical outlier. I don't know. That's just how it is, and I don't think I need to necessarily obey the I have to lose money on this. And if no one buys it, that's fine. This is a great knife, but like I think it's fine to meet the value of things, and so I think that like one, just this hobby in general is expensive, and we all have things to do, and I'm if you donate money to me to my coffee in the description, that's the only real money that I'm making from this. Or if I'm selling a knife and I manage to make a profit off of it, I'm able to either offset the cost of a previous knife or a knife in the future that I can then buy and talk about. And a lot of people have asked me to cover things that I don't have access to. Someone asked me to say, "Hey, can you do a video on the bushings Tally Z?" And I go, "Not unless you can get me one, because I'm not gonna buy one because you asked me to." Like this all comes out of pocket. So like if I'm able to offset the cost of things, like that's great, and I'm able to keep doing this, and I'm able to keep making more content and covering things and talking about what I love. But like I think one, I'm just used to negotiating. I price high. Let's say I priced this at 650, which I did earlier. I priced. Oh, actually, let's do the Carlo. The Carlo I am putting at 650, and I am hoping that someone negotiates me down to 600. And so I price high, expecting to be negotiated, and I negotiate because that's normal. So let's say someone counters offers me at 600, and I go, yeah, I could do that. If I put it at 600 and someone counters offer me at 550, that's $50 less than I theoretically could have gotten. But maybe I would go for it. It's negotiating, and the thing is, no one has bought it, and that's fine. In that like it's a good knife, so I don't like lament if I hold it forever. Like I guess a little bit because I have another Carlo, but it's a good fucking knife, and I think it's worth that much. It's a haystack knife, and a lot of haystack knives are just worth that much. And so right now I'm the only person selling a Carlo. If you want a Carlo, you have to buy it from me. I think Old School Balisong is starting to like sell other versions of the Carlo, but honestly, I don't know why, because like no one asked them to change it, and they're like, we need to change this because no one's buying it because we don't fucking sell our products publicly. Haystack rant. But I set the price. I'm setting the value of the Carlo to what I think is in line with what it's worth. It's it's siblings in the Haystack family, and I expect to be negotiated with. And so some people have had problems with me negotiating down people, and some people have problems with me setting my prices high. And if I make a profit, cool. Honestly, this is part of a game. I enjoy this. I enjoy negotiating, and I think it's fun. And I think it's fun to buy knives, and I think it's fun to sell knives. And I don't sell knives super easy. It's not like I'm printing money. I'm not like churning out stuff. I'm not like, I don't think I'm exploiting people. But if I price a knife high enough and people negotiate, then cool. Someone else gets a knife that makes them happy, and I get to offset some of the costs. And if no one buys it, well, I'm fully expecting that a lot of times because I know I'm pricing high. And I do that for my regular job in order to, afford food. And I don't know. Also, a lot of times, like, I don't have to worry about like missing a bill payment. If I am in a tight spot financially, I have savings, and so I will never be in a point where I need to rely on selling a knife for a bill. And some other people might be. I'm not judging you. If you need to sell a knife in order to pay a bill, you got to do what you got to do, and I get it. And I've bought knives from people who were in a tight spot financially for that reason. And I go like, thanks for the good deal and good luck with everything. And there's no bad blood. It's just what it is. So I guess this video was partially to just kind of explain, because I know that some people have given me flack. Yes, Kyo, he's rubbing his head against the monitor. And I just wanted to explain that I think this is a normal thing. I don't think this is a scumbaggery. I don't think I'm a dick. I'd like to think that if you get to know me as a person, I'm a pretty chill person to get along with, and I think most people understand. And like, if you know who I am, then you know that I'm not a malicious person. This is a hobby of mine, and I find that the negotiating and the buying and selling part is part of that hobby. But yeah, I hope at least if you did find this helpful, subscribe, like it, comment, tell me your thoughts. I know that some people will fundamentally just not agree with me. That's just life. That's how it is. I hate cilantro, and a lot of people will just fundamentally not agree with me. It's not my fault that cilantro has a genetic problem that makes it just be hated by like a fourth of the population. That's its problem. But like, I don't know. I think you can have fundamental disagreements about things and still be able to have a healthy relationship. I don't know. I think a lot of people were like quick to judge and quick to block, and I'm just like, whoa, okay, like, chill, homie. I'm not trying to start a fight. This is just a hobby. This is a like, why you have to be mad? So, anyways, I guess let me know your thoughts. If anything was helpful, let me know. I certainly hope the first video was helpful, because I think a lot of people just underestimate how much a knife costs to make, and some people go like, oh, they're so greedy, or oh, they're just trying to milk people for so much money. I'm like, holy shit, do you not have bills, child? Some of them don't, because they are actually actual children. So yeah, hopefully these videos were helpful, and if you found them helpful, give them a like, share it with someone, subscribe. Most of my viewers are not subscribed, and a lot of people have said, wow, you have so many fewer subscribers than you deserve. So thank you to everyone who says that. I very much appreciate it. I love what I do. I love this. It's something I do for fun, and I would appreciate if you subscribe, because I am proud of these videos. So thanks for tuning in. Happy flipping, and have a what am I doing? Have a good one. Happy flipping.